Okay, let's get this thing going. Just going to wait for the APU to come online so that the ADIRS is not running on battery before I start up the rest of them. There we go. That's most of my stuff done now. I'm waiting for a request from GSX to open the front right and aft right doors so the catering service can start. Let's take a quick look at that. Oh, there we go. So while the food's getting loaded up, I'll jump in and set up the flight in the MCDU. I'm going to use a company route. Entering the rest of the details I need here. These are all in the guide provided by Aerosoft. Okay, what else do I need to do? Let's go to set the flaps. Use a flap 2 takeoff, it's a short runway. We won't be using flex takeoff because it's a short runway. Everything else there seems okay. V1 rotate and V2, they seem good. Transition altitude set to 11,000, that's correct. What else do I need? Nothing down here, I think. Let's go up to the FCU. And the pressure set correctly, LS is off. Arc and distance of 10 on the EFIS. Managed mode for speed and heading. I'll dial in an altitude of 12,000 for the altitude and put that into managed mode as well. Looks like the catering's finished loading at the front. Shortly at the rear as well, I imagine. There we go. Back to my work. And squawk code's what I want to enter. I'm just going to put in 4711. Pretend we had that code. And turn the radios on, and that's my flows done. So the next significant event in the process is T plus 18.
I'm out for the walk around.
Which is, well actually T plus 19 is when the first officer comes back from his walk around. T plus 18 is when we start the boarding. So I'm going to take us forward in time.
I'm back from the walk around and everything is good.
Excellent.
Hi Captain, may we start boarding now?
Yes.
Great.
Strange thing with GSX that once I've selected it here in P3D, I need to do a quick select and deselect again, otherwise it messes with my hotkeys in EasyDock. That's the only route I found to be able to get that to work. If you know of another one, please let me know. I'd greatly appreciate it. Let's go to the MCDU. Start the boarding process in here. All passengers and cargo. Let's do the departure brief as well.
Are you ready for the takeoff brief?
Go ahead.
Okay, we have no MEL issues today. I will be the pilot flying. It will be a standard takeoff, using noise abatement departure procedure 1. And it will be a full thrust takeoff. We will use config 2 for takeoff. Runway condition is dry. As for anti-ice, it's not required. The packs will be on. We will use standard calls today. At or below 100 knots, I'll reject for any warnings. Below V1, I will only reject for an engine failure, a fire of any kind, a configuration warning, or anything I deem will adversely affect the safety of the aircraft. I will reject the takeoff by calling stop. If you could monitor that the auto brakes have activated and that the spoilers have deployed. Once we stop, if there's a fire, I'll position that side of the aircraft to be downwind and we'll evacuate through the open side. I'll advise the cabin and you talk to ATC. Above V1, we'll take the aircraft into the air, sort it out there, and decide if we need to return to the airfield. If you notice anything amiss during the takeoff roll, please notify me. Any questions?
That's checked and no questions.
Takeoff brief complete.
Excellent. Let's have a quick look at the external shots for the loading. For some reason with EasyDock, when I first transition from an inside view to the outside view, I'm left pointing at the sky or some indeterminate place in space, and it requires a second click to be able to center on the view that I wanted to see. GSX is barking at me now to close the doors. It's out of sync with the operation of FS2Crew. Sometimes that's just the way that goes. And please excuse the rather odd statements that come up here that make it look as if I'm saying them, things like thrust climb. Clearly that information is what's being interpreted by FS2Crew. But because I've got the hard mute button set here, it's not actually going to do anything on the basis of what it interprets, which is maybe just as well. I'm using the approaching Innsbruck scenery from the guys at Aerosoft here. We can have a quick look around, I think. Beautiful scenery for Innsbruck, as I'm sure any good flight simmer knows. Nestled down in the valley, makes for an interesting landing if you come in from that direction, landing on runway 08. We're taking off from 08, of course, heading in this direction, which means we've got to fly all the way along the valley, carefully negotiating all the hills there as we climb up and away, and then practically turn back on ourselves to come back overhead Innsbruck before setting off on our flight proper. Okay, let's pop back into the cockpit. And the next major event is T+8 when the load sheet arrives, so I'm going to fast forward us to that.
Hello, Captain. The passenger boarding is complete, and when you're ready, I have the load sheet for you.
Thanks.
Have a safe flight.
That's pretty much it then until T+2 when the outer doors close, and I'll fast forward us to that point now.
Drive to cockpit.
Go ahead.
Alright, Captain. We are removing the stairs now.
Thanks. Small delay now while all that gets sorted out. With a minute to run, the flight attendant will report that the cabin's secure and we can start getting underway.
Hi Captain, the cabin is ready to go.
Thanks.
If you need anything, just let me know.
Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead.
Please disconnect external power.
Roger. Disconnecting GPU. Captain, the GPU is now disconnected.
Thanks. Before start procedures.
Okay.
Before start checklist to the line.
Before start checklist down to the line. Cockpit preparation.
Completed.
Completed. Gear pins and covers.
Removed.
Signs.
On.
Ideas.
Nav.
Fuel quantity.
6.8 tons.
Takeoff data.
Set.
Baro ref.
One 1013 set.
1013 set. Before start checklist completed to the line.
So at this stage I need to check my acupressure as part of my flows, and I can see I'm a bit low here. I'm going to activate the hydraulic system electronically for a short time just to get that boosted up to where it needs to be. And I think that's the yellow circuit I want for that, so let's give it a try. There we go, you can see it's increasing now, and that's all set. I'll turn it off again, and now I'm ready for my checklist. Before start checklist below the line.
Before start checklist below the line. Windows and doors.
Closed.
Closed. Beacon.
On.
Thrust levers.
Idle.
Parking brake.
Set.
Before start checklist complete.
So we're about ready to get going now. Let's order the pushback. I want nose right, tail left.
Cabin crew, arms lines and cross-check.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Great thing about GSX here is that it automatically pushes you back to the right spots. You don't need to declare a distance to be pushed back. It works that out for you. It just needs to know which direction you want to end up pointing in.
Departure check completed. Bypass been inserted. Release parking brakes.
Okay, let's do that.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start that wheel.
Okay. Starting engine 2. A quick look here on the display. Once we get up to about 20% N1, then we're stabilised and we're ready to start engine number 1. Okay, looking pretty good. Starting engine 1.
Set parking brakes.
Parking brake on. Brakes set. You are cleared to disconnect and go to hand signals.
Have a safe flight.
After start procedure.
Check. Flaps 2.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass being removed.
After start checklist.
After start checklist. Anti-ice.
Off.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Pitch trim.
Set.
Rudder trim.
0.
Clear.
After
Right,
start
clear.
checklist complete.
Flight controls check.
Ready. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Rudder.
Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Clear on the left.
Clear on the right.
Okay, let's start our taxi. Takes a little bit of a push on the throttle to get us going, and then I can back off. Try and keep us to a speed of 20 knots or below. Brake check.
Ready.
Okay, the brake check definitely works, that's good. So with a mixture of throttle and brakes, try and keep the speed down and get a sensible, safe taxi to the live runway. I find it quite difficult to brake with the rudder pedal, where you've got differential braking and you're trying to apply both of them equally. As you can no doubt see.
Hi there, flight deck. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Captain, the cabin is secure.
Thanks. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to take us up to the line just before the active. Hold here. Before takeoff checklist to the line.
Before takeoff checklist down to the line. Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Flight instruments.
Checked.
Checked. Briefing.
Confirmed.
Flap setting.
Config 2.
Config 2. V1, VR, V2. Flex temp.
V189. V rotate 120. V2 124. Toga.
V1 is 8, 9. V rotate is 1, 2, 0. V2 is 1, 2, 4. And we are using Toga. ATC.
Set.
ECAM memo.
Takeoff no blue.
Before takeoff checklist completed to the line.
Cabin crew seats for departure. Okay, let's get ourselves on the active. It's all looking clear. I'm going to have to throw quite a big UE at the end of the runway here. Try and make maximum use of the runway. Okay, seems to be in a good place there. Let's get ourselves sorted. Before takeoff checklist, below the line.
Before takeoff checklist below the line. Cabin crew.
Advised.
TCAS.
TA.
Engine mode selector.
Norm.
Pax.
Off.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
Okay, we're ready to rock and roll. Takeoff with the first officer on board should be a lot easier because I can just give him instructions and ask him to follow through. Okay, let's see how we do. Nose down. Keep us on the runway. Actually, let me just take off the hard mute. Takeoff. Man, Toga, SRS.
Thrust set. V1. 100 knots.
Checked.
Rotate. Positive rate of climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Flaps 1.
Flaps 1.
Flaps 0.
Flaps 0. Gear up.
After takeoff checklist to the line.
After takeoff checklist down to the line. Landing gear.
Up.
Flaps.
Retracted.
Pax.
On.
After takeoff checklist completed to the line.
I'll simulate getting an instruction from air traffic that we're cleared to our cruise altitude of 31,000. Get fairly close to these mountains really during the climb out. If they would appear on the nav display. Nope, I think we haven't got the relevant radar activated by default. Next thing I'm looking for is when we pass the transition level, when we change the baro reference. Transition level here is 11,000 feet, you may recall from when I programmed the MCDU. Set standard.
Standard cross-checked. Passing flight level 120. Now,
Checked. After takeoff checklist below the line, please.
takeoff checklist below the line. Baro ref.
Standard set.
Standard set. After takeoff checklist complete.
So that's completed the takeoff phase. As you can see, using the first officer can make it a lot easier to cope with. There's an awful lot goes on during that phase, and having that first officer is really helpful. It's going to get similarly busy when I come in for the landing, and no doubt we'll experience that for ourselves. Not much to do here, but I'm going to try and keep this recording going and do this all in one continuous flight and landing. I'll probably cut this into 2 videos, but I'm going to try and do it as one shot. Next event is when we get into the cruise at 31,000 feet. So in the meantime, we may as well take a look at some of the beautiful scenery. I'm using Orbex FTX Global with Orbex FTX Open Land Class as well. So a quick look outside the cockpit.